Hi again. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome back to Conversations with Al McFarlane. I apologize for the misstart at 1 o'clock our regular time. We noticed that we were not getting audio out, so we tried to regroup and reorganize. I hope I have solved that problem. If I have not solved it, I'm like the old saying goes: you try and try and try again. Keep on till you get it right. So you will hear this, you will have it. And what I want to present today is so important. It's actually a reprise or an encore of an interview I did last Tuesday. Conversations, every Tuesday, Conversations with Al McFarlane is not only on social media with Black Press USA and the Insight News social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, etc., but also live broadcast on our local station, KFAI 90.3 FM. Shout out to them for being a powerful resource in the community and across their social media and online platforms as well. It was a great program last Tuesday because I interviewed a dear friend, Resmaa Menakem. And as I started this program 20 minutes ago, I was sharing his book because that's what the interview is about. The interview is about this book, Resmaa Menakem as author of The Quaking of America, an embodied guide to navigating our nation's upheaval and racial reckoning. And I shared at the beginning of the previous a little bit about the book and about Resmaa. I won't do that again, except for to say that, reading from the back cover notes of the book, that Resmaa is a leading voice in today's conversation on racialized trauma, and he's creator of cultural somatics, which utilizes the body and its natural resilience as mechanisms for growth. As a therapist and as the founder of Justice Leadership Solutions, a leadership consulting firm, Resmaa dedicates his expertise to coaching leaders through civil unrest, organizational change, and community building. He's the author of the national bestseller, My Grandmother's Hands, Racialized Trauma, and the Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies. Resmaa and I interviewed a few years ago when he had just returned from a tour of duty as a civilian contractor in Afghanistan. He was there providing counseling services to men and women who were traumatized in battle, some wounded physically, some wounded morally, but traumatized. And he spent a period of time, and he said, and you'll see in this interview, that one of the things he noticed when he came back, he went there weighing 200 something pounds, his regular size, came back at 167 pounds, but disoriented and in need of recentering and resettling. Well, he's spent a lot of time focusing on what trauma is, and obviously he has both the personal experience and the academic intellectual training and development of expertise that renders valuable insight to all of us today. So check this out, enjoy it. I hope I'm successful in making sure that the audio comes through. And I'd love you to do two things. One is go to the April 23rd, that's a Saturday, book signing of his book, The Quaking of America. He's doing that 6 to 10 p.m. this Saturday, April 23rd, at the Northrop King Building, 1500 Jackson Street, Northeast. It'll be a great event. A lot of his friends, a lot of people that don't know him but should know him can be there, greet him, buy the book, support the book. And then just enjoy this interview. Also, share this interview that we're going to have this presentation with your friends, your networks. Like it and share it so that we can get as many people as possible connecting to this energy and to this idea. What Resmaa is doing is breaking free, shifting into a future that is different, that we identify and do, that we become different in that we discover the way to become ourselves, and we discover how we respond to oppression, challenges, the incessant weight how do we free ourselves from the weight of white supremacist thought and institutions? So check it out, share, let people know we're doing this, and communicate. Join this conversation by just putting your notes in the chat on either Facebook or on the YouTube channels, wherever you're watching this from. Enjoy it, and we'll get going right now. Text. The experience that our European brothers and sisters are having in Ukraine and Russia. And you talked about on this morning's show that white people have to get ready for the possibility of those of the symbols you just described, the swastika, the noose, that reactionary, supremacist white body movement. You warned that even whites have to get ready because they too can be and will be victims, possibly of mass murder. I think you said it like that. And when you said it, Resmaa, it reminded me what's happening right now, just a few thousand miles from here in Europe. And these are white people murdering white people. So let me stop there and have you talk just about the general notion, the bell you're ringing for America and Black people in particular.
Well, that's the quaking, right? We as Black people know the shimmering and the shaking of white supremacy. We've had to navigate it, right? We've had to understand the vibe of white supremacy. We've had to understand the shifts in meaning making. We've had to understand the visceral, sensate experience of white body supremacy. White bodies collectively have not. So this is why they get surprised every time something happens, right? Collectively, this is why they go, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening in my country. And that lets you know the dissociation that they have as it relates to race. And so one of the things that I always remember is a white elder told me a while ago when I wrote My Grandmother's Hands, I gave her a copy first. Her name is Janice Barber. Janice said, remember, she goes, Resmaa, the book is wonderful. She said, but here's one of the things I want you to always think about and remember. What white bodies did to Black and indigenous bodies in enslavement and land theft and genocide, what they did to those bodies, they perfected on other white bodies first. And when she said that, man, I was like, she said, the Middle Ages, the Crusades, the conversions, all of those pieces were elite white bodies destroying and beating and land thefting and doing those things to poor white bodies. By the time those bodies started to get out into the world on boats and come here, they had been brutalized for 1,000 years. And they were, remember, most immigrants, most European immigrants, most white bodies that are listening to me and you talk right now, brother, are descended from white bodies who were fleeing something. That fleeing never got dealt with. And they created this pigmentocracy to blow all of that energy through our bodies as opposed to healing it. Right. And so the quaking is my thing around the quaking is to begin to help bodies, Black bodies, white bodies, Asian bodies, whatever, prepare for what they're seeing and act like what they're seeing is an important thing to pay attention to rather than forgetting about it. Right. This thing, these people who there are over, I always say this, there were more white women who voted for Trump the second time than the first time. Now think about that. After all the things you heard this man say and did and the horribleness of it, more white women decided that they wanted that. They decided that they're that. And those and I wrote quaking to absolve white bodies in particular of this idea that their kindness and their niceness is enough to deal with the brutality that's coming their way.
when you said that, I heard you say that this morning on the show with Angela Yee as well, and it reminded me that I think yesterday or the day before I listened to a show of Karen Hunter. Have you met her? Do you know Karen Hunter yet? Have you been
We've
her?
corresponded back and forth, but I would love to get on her show.
You got to be on there, and you got to also. I'm gonna send her a note saying she got to talk to you, and I know that she wants to. I've been following her show on Saturdays. The narrative. I'm wearing the narrative gear here with brother Greg Carr. Phenomenal, but they're saying what you say. So two things come to mind with me right now based on what you just said. She interviewed a guy, I can't remember his name, a brother, a philosopher, he's an educator, but he also is a young guy. He's at Harvard, he's teaching Gullah and Black English at Harvard. Do you know who that is by chance?
I know what Gullah is, yeah.
Okay, you know the language.
South Carolina, yep.
Yes, he's a South Carolinian and grew up with the shame of our language, our ways of thinking and talking, and that being not sufficient to be considered civilized, and cultured. So he ended up turning that into a study and has a PhD in the Africana studies, but his specialty is Gullah language. And he also has been innovating, doing stuff with TikTok. And one of the TikTok posts he had was one that talked about this question of how white women and white society portrays white women. There's this notion from the black and white films of the pre-sound days of the white damsel laying across the track, and Black Bart was a white guy's name, but he was the villain, about to let her be run over by a train. He said that's one image they projected, white woman as victim. He said, but the real image, and he switched the screen, was a picture of Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
Criminals.
Right.
Criminals, both of them criminals. And he said that is more near the truth of how white women are positioned in this society. And I think either Karen or Carr always refers to the social structure itself as a criminal enterprise. And that's something to think about. So I just want to throw that out as something that you reminded me of as you spoke. I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. I'm talking to my friend and guest, Resmaa Menakem. Resmaa is a therapist. Is that the right term? Therapist or a
I'm a clinical social worker.
Clinical social worker and therapist. He's got a new book out. The book is The Quaking of America. I think the book drops today.
Yeah, it does.
Quaking of America, an embodied guide to navigating our country's upheaval and racial reckoning. Timely. He's also the author of the New York Times bestseller, My Grandmother's Hands to Read, that's worth getting even now. If you haven't seen it or read it, I'd say make that a priority. So Resmaa, you used the term, you were talking about the experience of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, and I wrote down in my note that you used the concept of spirit murder. What did you mean by that? Go unpack that for me.
So it's a term,
and you can bring this any way you want to bring it around, keep it going. So okay.
So it was introduced to me by a brother named Max. I was doing a training, and he introduced I believe the sister's name is Patricia Wilson, who coined that term, spirit murder. When you just talked about the brother who had this grief and shame around the natural language and the people that he loved and how he came up, that's the spirit murder that's structural in this society. We always look at things like Ketanji, we look at that as episodic, it's episodes. No, it is persistent and pervasive. The murder of our spirit first is the order of the day. It is part and parcel of enslavement, is to break and murder the spirit so you can then mold a worker as opposed to have an African. The idea that they enslaved slaves is a foolhardy notion. They did not enslave slaves. They enslaved farmers, architects, medical people, doctors. They did that specifically. They literally went down the west coast of Africa and looked at who had the farming knowledge, right?
Targeted.
That's right. That's what they did. They wanted people who had knowledge about the land because they did not, right? And so the idea of rotations and all of that different type, they went and got people who were already doing it, right? Architects, blacksmiths, all those different types of doulas. How do you birth? What are the herbs, right? That's what they did, right? And so the spirit murder is now making you believe that you are inward, right? The spirit murder is making you believe that white folks' ice is colder. The spirit murder is what you saw when they went at Sister Ketanji. They could not touch her in terms of her credentials. So if they couldn't touch her in terms of her credentials, what did they need to do? And what they wanted to do was show all the other white folks, we got this handled. Don't be uncomfortable. We got it handled. And here's how you know we got it handled. We will say the most vile, we will ask her the most vile questions that go to not her jurisprudence, but to her humanness.
Right.
Right? That's spirit murder. It is a pervasive and persistent attack on the spirit, on the connection, on the joy of Black bodies.
And it really didn't matter what she said. They were not interested in her answers because that wasn't the agenda. And they pursued their agenda. Let me ask you about, you talked about often in your books and in your lectures, the role of violence in America. And I want to stretch with this a little bit, Resmaa. I've never asked you personally, but this is a good time to ask you about your name, Resmaa Menakem. Tell me about that name, how it came to you, why you chose it, why you wear it, and what it means to you. And in the telling, talk about something I think you'll enjoy talking about is how humans changed from a system and a process of cooperative balance that they called Ma'at as a way of life, a way of community of being, and took a path that I call Sethian, a path that glorified violence as a shortcut to achieve aims, but that also afforded a community the ability to have the few rule the many to the disadvantage of the many and to the consolidation of power, wealth of the few. And that model itself tied up into the notion of patriarchy. So that's a lot. Jump in it anywhere you want to and work with it.
So let's start with my names. First off, I didn't choose my name. My name was given to me 30 years ago by my elders, Elder Mother Atun and Seba Ahmed. And it took 9 months before I got my name. And they sat with me and they sat with my wife, and this is what was coming up in the Kemetic tradition. Your name is not just what people call you; it is also the guidepost by which you should be living and aligning your life towards. So my name Res means to cause to rise. The first part Res means to cause to rise. Ma is Ma'at for the alignment, in the alignment of truth. Mena means mooring. It's that post that you put in a dock to that all of the other rest of the posts may break apart, but that one post is sitting up there and you go, well, what is that? Why is that there? Well, there used to be a poster. That's the mooring. It is it solidifies things to a place. It orients people to a place. And Kem means Black. So my name and my role and my purpose on this planet is he who causes to rise in the alignment of truth using the foundation of his people. And so that name can't be something that I give myself. That name has to be something that emerges from my interaction and what the community and what my people see as my role, and in line with what I have an understanding of what my work has been, right? And so the older you get, the more your name evolves. So at one point when I'm 14 years old, my name means something else. When I'm 49 years old, now it means something else, right? Because there is more that I have. There's more trust that has been given to me the older I get by the community, right? So the idea that, and remember, everything in Kemetic tradition was always tied to creation. Mm-hmm. Everything, right? And not creation, not God as a substitute for creation, because our concept of God really is a bestowal God. It is what was beat and raped into us for 250 years, right? But this idea of creation as emergence, and what we have to do is work with the thing that thwarts the emergence in order so that thing that we are actually, and our purpose that is supposed to emerge can actually emerge. But you can't do that if you're in the structure that thwarts it. You have to pay attention to the thwarting and loosen the thwarting so that thing that can naturally emerge can emerge. So Ma'at is in that is that idea that there is an alignment of something, and you can get aligned to things and think you're doing the right thing and get aligned to something that really is about destruction, but it fuels and feeds your own personal acquisition of something, whether that's power, control, whatever it is. And that's what we're dealing with right now. That's what I've tried to kind of pull out in Quaking of America, is say, look, what we have to be about in terms of Black bodies and other bodies of culture is reclaiming those things that thwart our emergence. And you can't reclaim those things by trying to retrofit it into yoga or retrofit it into Christianity or retrofit it into Islam. That's not the Black body. We are descended. I always say this. When creation decided that there was going to be an emergence of a human entity, that emergence was a Black woman first, and everybody else came through that. And the only way you get around that is to have a different understanding or a different worldview or a different idea that you now believe in, as opposed to that basic fact. And so for me, I see myself, and remember that idea of emergence comes out of the idea, the cosmological idea of Blackness, not Blackness as a tomb, but Blackness as a womb, a pregnancy, something to be birthed, right? And so for me, all of my work is about how do we begin to become more aligned with that idea and not have to retrofit it into somebody else's concept of the idea, but that the Black body and the Black skin and the melanized skin is actually a representation of creation and emergence itself.
Amazing, wonderful. And so how do we generate broad understanding, broad awareness? You talk about the reckoning. The reckoning, I think, is also the awakening. Mm-hmm. They are hand in hand or kindred. What do you see as the process, the path?
I say they can be. They can be akin to one another. And I think so my books, all of my books are about practice and reps and getting your body tempered and conditioned to be able to deal with the 400 years of enslavement, the genocide, the brutality, and it's one of the reasons why I stopped using the term white privilege. I don't use the term white privilege anymore, because structurally, if you're born in a society by which the white body deems and has deemed itself the supreme standard by which all bodies' humanity shall be measured, philosophically and structurally, if you are born into that structure and you are in a white body, it is not a privilege to be in that white body. It is an advantage. They're different. Right? It is an advantage where the white body has been conditioned. Listen, and it's a global advantage. Let me give you an example. When you are in the Ukraine and you're fleeing war from the Russians, and you take the damn time to say, you black bodies, get off of this boat, get off of this train, get off of this, that's white body supremacy in action, right? It is because the white body is seen as standard globally because it was an export, and the black and indigenous body was seen as deviant from the standard of humanness. The race question in this country at its root is a species question. It has always been a species question. The way that they used the term race to start off with in European thought was about categorizing a race of dog, a race of cat, a race of fauna, a race of bird, a species, right? Well, they took that idea and grafted it on human beings. And then operated and created institution to reinforce that notion. The medical institutions were used to reinforce. The economic institutions were used to reinforce it. And so in the quaking, I'm really trying to get at us to begin to slow down enough, pause, and create culture, what I call a somatic abolitionist culture. Underneath that, what I talk about is that we have to be about the business day to day, repping and conditioning around creating a living, embodied anti-racist culture, not strategy, not tips, culture. A living, embodied anti-racist culture does not exist within the white population collectively. It does not. They have no sense of a collective understanding of it. Let me just say this last piece. The collective white culture cannot conceive of a free black body. Pause on that for a second. There is no reference point they have in terms of a free indigenous body. It is why when you see Brother Kaepernick kneel on the football field and the collective white culture loses their mind, quietly leaning on it. That because white comfort trumps black liberation, right? When you see Sister Osaka say, I don't want to do these things anymore in tennis. I don't want to interview. I don't want to do these. It hurts me. The collective white consciousness says, how dare you?
Our entertainment is more valuable.
Yeah, that's right. We for 400 years, we have had full and unfettered access to your body. How dare you say I shall not have access to your body? Right? It is a reflexive response in the larger white collective. That's what they have to begin to do. They got to work that. They got to work that. They got to work their fleeing stuff. Don't worry about coming over here trying to save black folks. Stop exalting white body supremacy, and black bodies will take care of themselves. We'll work it out.
And at the same time, the corollary is that we have to take care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying and establishing and declaring is that black bodies, because of who they are, what they are, their humanity, their resilience, and their history, as we rediscover
and reclaim
the depth and breadth of our existence, our humanity, our genius, our gifts, and our alignment with the principle of justice and the principle of organizing families. Right. I was reading I.K. Arma in the what's it called? The scribe. I've got it back here. It's Eloquence of the Scribes. That's the name of the book. And he talks about having societies organized around families that were not gender defined. Genders existed, but there wasn't a gender hierarchy. The family unit itself saw itself complete. It graded itself or recognized the gifts of age. What age means in the acquisition and development of knowledge and innovation, but also recognize that children, young people, are equally a part of the process of the acquisition of knowledge, and that everybody's role is essential. Nobody's excluded, nobody's othered, but everybody is part of the process, and that the process that works in the universe of a family is a process that can replicate among families, and among families, communities, and so it's exponential. And so there's a process then, it's slow, he says, and it takes a long time for a lot of people to be involved in the movement of society, of the body of the human beings. That, however, is what clashed with, or was attacked and actually beset by the strategy of the shortcut of violence.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And so talk about that. What is the role of violence in America? And you've mentioned the possibility of it happening here. We don't want to think about it. We're ignoring it. We're saying, I think you said, it's amazing that people seem to have forgotten there was almost a overthrow of our government just a year ago. It's like it didn't happen, you know, even though we all watched it live on TV, right? And so there's that. What could that have meant, and what could it mean? Because that probably was just a warm-up, a practice, to study, right? And so go ahead.
So what you just described, brothers, what I talk about in the book is what I call fractals, right? Fractals is this concept that there's a patterning on one level, but the same patterning with more energy is also happening at other levels, right? And so the family fractal, right, can also, in the patterning of a family fractal or communal fractal, right, can also be a generational fractal, can also be a nation fractal, right? So it's the same thing, that the same patterning in each level, right? And when you watch January 6th and you watch an attempted coup, right? Here's what I've been saying to a lot of, when I've been speaking to a lot of white folks, I've been saying this, look, if you saw January 6th and you did not after that go and take a self-defense course, you didn't go and figure out how you were going to keep track of your children if something jumped off at school, you didn't go and learn weapons training, you didn't go and take a first aid class, you didn't go, like, you didn't, that didn't spur you to take what you saw as a serious matter of people who want to murder you if you are not in alignment with their understanding. That is what will get you and your children and your family murdered, because you think your whiteness will protect you, and it will not. These people are not playing. And so for me, this idea of looking at January 6th as a seminal moment, as something that's serious and need to be paid attention to, and people need to mobilize around it, right? Not just, oh, I'm shocked, I can't believe those are, and here's another thing, white bodies love declarations of independence from other white bodies. They love being the good ones, right? But as my daddy used to say, ain't gonna bust a grape in the fruit fight, right? They ain't gonna, they're gonna look at this thing as episodic as opposed to structural. And what I wanted to do with quaking was say, this is a structural manifestation that you're seeing. It is not episodic. This is a groundswell that you're watching, right? And notice, we don't even have the conversations anymore about what happened on January 6th. Now we're saying, let the Congress go through their things and do their little things. It's because I think bodies of culture saw that and understood exactly what that is. I don't believe white bodies as a collective really understand what that was. They think it was episodic. And what they don't understand is that you have millions of people across this country who are meeting every day, creating culture about your destruction. Every day, like literally meeting about how to hurt you. And you're going around as business as usual. And when things start to actually fall apart, we are moving the United States at this point is closer to an authoritarian regime than it has ever been. Right? As it relates to Black people, it's always been authoritarian. I mean, the plantations were built on authoritarianism, right? But white people, the collective of white bodies, don't really have any a collective agility or efficacy when it comes to understanding race at a nuanced level. And so that's why I wrote the book. I'm like, y'all are asleep. You have no idea what's getting ready to happen.
On the other hand, I recall Resmaa in high school. I think I went to a white high school in Kansas City, and one of my classmates, this was back in the time when there was a potential for, the Cold War, the anti, missile, fear, the whole thing. Yeah, hide on your desk, right? So white kid tells me, honestly, I don't know why we're doing this, because if the Russians came here, my life wouldn't be any different. I'm smart. I'm white. They're white. I'll still be an accountant. I'll still be a doctor. I'll still be, running a train company. So how will my life change?
Real talk.
And so I think there's that acceptance that they can go either way, and that's why.
That's the piece. That's the piece.
You described the left wing and the right wing,
are all part of the same
never talk about the bird.
That's right. That's right. They're part of the same racist bird. And those people that are like, I'm an ally, I'm this. One of the things I always say to them, how would I know that if you hadn't told me? What's your culture of embodying anti-racism? Yeah, what's the evidence here? The fact that you declare it is not evidence, right? And this, what that white boy said to you is absolutely true. I'll be cool. I'll be cool because whiteness has currency, right? And so if that currency, if I can spend that currency with Putin, cool. If I can spend that that currency with the United States or Canada, cool. If I can spend that currency with the elites in Mexico, cool. It's all good. And the unfortunate piece that most poor whites don't understand is that their currency is limited compared to the elite white bodies, right? So this idea that I'm an American, but when somebody waves the AR-15 in front of my face, I'll start talking Russian, right? is what they see as survival of the fittest or adaptability. And what we have to see is part of the whole structural apparatus of white body supremacy. There is a supremacy of the white body that they have woven in and around and through every institution, and that supremacy is global, right? That does not stop white bodies from doing horrible things to other white bodies. That's what you're watching in Ukraine, right? There are a lot of Ukrainians, if Russia does finish doing what they're doing, there are a lot of Ukrainians right now as we speak that will align themselves with Russia 30 years from now, right? These are the pieces that I was trying to highlight.
And they'll see themselves as Slavs, not as Ukrainians. Because the Putin mission is the reemergence of the Slavic people, Slavic nationalism. That's why he wants Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine to identify, to redefine their bodies and the territory they occupy as some kind of a federation or a new Slavic empire.
That's right.
Yeah.
But whiteness, but this the piece. When you start talking about identity, people go, "Oh, it's just about class, or it's just about this, or it's just about nationality, or something like that." Okay, I can get with that. And it's about whiteness. Don't take that off the table, baby. Don't take this construction, this brutal construction, off the table because you are uncomfortable with working with it.
You talked this morning. I put quotes around the word white fear in my notes, and I can't remember exactly what you were saying, but I know that partly is what I meant. The deception, the theater of the white woman being presented as the victim and not as the partner in crime, as in the body and Clyde.
Yeah.
And so white fear is a tool, it's a deception. And it reminds me, yeah, I was like must have been 10, 12, way dark at night, coming out of the mountains in Ghana, in a mountainous area, heading back down to the coast. And we stopped in a small town, but what do I see but two white women walking alone in the bush, right? And so I said, that's really amazing. As much as we hear about how they're scared, when they stop at a stop sign in North Minneapolis, the doors go click, click,
That's right.
They clutch up with their purses. But here they are in a black country at night, no street lines, and they're just walking down the side of a mountain willy-nilly. And so it just tells me that they're not afraid, number one, and the projection of themselves as victims is simply that. It's a tactic and a tool that advantages them and disadvantage who they see as their adversary. What do you think about that?
It's a market. So the fear, the way that they position fear in this country is actually a marketing gimmick. Right? It's the Jedi mind trick of racialization. It's designed to have you question your own what your eyes are seeing, right? And pretend like there's nothing else operating in the background. The fact of the matter is that white women in particular, especially elite white women, were received on, it's what I call plantation ethics, right? They received proximal power on that plantation. Now, were bad things happening to white women, to some white women? Yes, because remember, the United States was created inside of a legalized rape culture. I'm going to pause on that for a second.
I wrote that down in my notes this morning, and the note I wrote was state-sponsored rape. So let's talk about that.
That's right.
Come around to it when you want to.
Yeah, it is. When we think about the brutality of enslavement, many of us forget that the average age of rape on the plantation for the enslaved was 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old, right? And that happened for 250 years. Was legally sanctioned rape. White bodies had full and unfettered access to every orifice and idea of the black body, right? That's an obvious problem for us, but it's also a problem for white folks because now white folks have been conditioned to expect our deference, right? And so this idea of fear was used to say, me, the man who owns this plantation, I will protect you, white woman. I will protect your purity and your honor. And white women said, you my uncle, you my daddy, you my neighbor, you all this different type of stuff. I will place my allegiance with you, even though I know I'm getting brutalized also. But when it comes to, so that's why I mean that it's a very nice marketing thing, because if you can make white women and white men, poor white people, believe that the ultimate annihilator of their being is housed in a black body, then they never have to contend with the fact that the real threat is the white people that they're in the house with, is the white people that allowed their covenants to be upheld, is the white judge and all that different type of stuff. That's too scary. It's easier to say that Brother Al is the ultimate annihilator in terms of my being, the ultimate annihilator in terms of my children and my progeny. If that's the case, then I don't really have to concern myself with how whiteness is showing up and putting me in danger with regard to elite white bodies. One of the things when I'm doing my workshops, brother, that I say a lot now is that white bodies know the fear and brutality of other white bodies. They know how far white bodies are willing to go. When I get white bodies in the room and I start doing work with them, after about an hour or two in the room, you know what happens if it's just white bodies that I'm working with? You know what happens? They start tearing each other apart. They start doing this hierarchy thing.
Mm-hmm.
They start undermining each other. And they start doing it's because they don't know how to work with bodies. They don't know how to work with each other's bodies. They know how to have a structure that organizes them, but they don't know how to work with each other's bodies. And that's and so that's what I'm trying to get at in the Quaking of America are those very deep-seated pieces.
Language is important, and the ability to examine the power, the intention, and what is said and not said in language is critical. Reading is important, and I have of late, Resmaa, gotten into a sort of reading frenzy. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm happy for it because I'm glad to be excited about reading. And what I've been doing on these shows every day is asking my guests to share with us what they're reading of late, what they'd recommend. But in that spirit, and along the lines of this conversation, I am reading this book called The Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. Ooh. And it's Linda Brent is a pen name of an actual woman who was enslaved between the 1820s and 1840s, who eventually escaped the sexual exploitation of the owner, a Dr. Flint. And she ran away, had to spend 7 years in an attic of her grandmother's house in a crawl space, but finally was able to make her way. She was educated and has documented this experience. I'm also reading, and I've shared this before, but I'll do it again. I haven't gotten into it yet, except for the forward and what it's about. It's called Whiteness in Plain View.
I've heard of that.
I share that because it's a book produced by Minnesota Historical Society Press. Mm-hmm. And the subtitle is A History of Racial Exclusion in Minnesota. And I'll share this one paragraph. It says, Whiteness in Plain View examines the ways white residents across Minnesota acted to intimidate, control, remove, and keep out African Americans over the course of the 19th and 20th centuries. Their methods ranged from anonymous threats, vandalism, and mob violence to restrictive housing covenants, realtor deceit, and mortgage discrimination. And they were aided by local, state, and federal government agencies, as well as openly complicit public officials. And last sentence is what they did was not an anomaly or aberration of some particular place or passing moment, but rather common and continuous. You call that structural. That's the way the thing was built.
Not episodic.
Not episodic. Those are the words you use. So a comment on that. And, we've got a few minutes. What's coming up in your promotional and presentation schedule that people can follow you on, how they follow and read more about what you're saying?
Yeah. So right now, first thing is, if they're interested in reading my books, you can buy my books, and I'm encouraging, especially my people from Minnesota. Help me out, y'all. Go get the book. It's a great book. Right now, I'm in New York City. I just did, like you said, I did the Breakfast Club. They actually, my book is on the Jumbotron, on the NASDAQ Jumbotron right now. In Times Square. I'm on my way to
take a picture of that and send it to me so I can put it in the newspaper.
Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna send you some pictures, but I'm gonna also send you there's a live link, so you can actually go see the actual live thing. So
awesome.
I'll send that to you. And then I'm on my way to do the West Coast swing of the book tour. I'm having a big book launch April 23rd in Minneapolis. So come on and check that out. And just, go to my website, resmaa.com, resmaa.com, and come on there or go there. You can buy the book through there. And you can also get the link there too to see the jumbotron, the live
Okay.
view.
Okay.
It's at the top of the page. But I'm just, brother. I see myself. Like I am. I am without you, without Elder Mahmoud, without Mother Toon, without James Baldwin, without Fannie Lou Hamer, without my people. There's no way I would, without my mom, without my dad, without my people, there's no way I would be able to do what I've done, right? In terms of trying to create something, an embodied inroads into trying to abolish white supremacy and white body supremacy. And so I see myself as being somebody who emerged up out of a culture. I'm not. I always tell people, like, you know, I did a thing for Yale a year ago, and it was like, you're very smart and stuff like that. I said, no, I come from a community. I'm moored in my peoplehood. The academic stuff is not, that's not the end all and be all. What the end all and be all for me is that when you tell me you're proud of me. When Elder Mahmoud tells me, bruh, you know, he called me, he goes, whoo, I'm so, you know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That right there is,
sure.
that's what I'm moored in.
Mhm.
You know, and so for me, the way that people can help me out is to continue to hold me, continue to love me, continue to laugh with me, continue to check on me, continue to bring food by the house. You know what I mean? Ask me what I need, and tell me to go lay down someplace when I need to lay down.
I wanted to ask you, I mentioned earlier, because I'm so fascinated by the work you did, uh, uh, providing mental health services to combatants
Yeah.
in Afghanistan. Talk about that for a minute, just to refresh what your story was, how that happened, and what you learned from it, and what it cost you in terms of your own mental health.
Yeah, you were one of the first people that I was talking to when I got back, and
I
you
remember.
saw,
Yeah.
you saw all of the stuff I was going through. That man, that, you know, that was both the worst thing and the best thing I ever did in my life at the same time. If I had not have had that experience, I don't think my grandmother's hands would have gotten written. It forced me up against my own kind of growth edges to a point to where I was either going to grow up and transform and go through it cleanly, or I was going to kill myself. It was, and it was a point of what I call the precipice, the point of where it's both possibility and peril at the same place, at the same time. And this is what I say: if I hadn't had my community and people talking to me and, hey, how you doing? You from time to time, how you doing, brother? How you doing? Like that stuff, man. Those things, those things matter. Those things matter because when you experience something like when you landed. So my job was to work on 53 military bases in southern Afghanistan. So if people got raped, if there was a rocket attack and somebody got killed, my job was to process that. And I did that for 2 years, man. And I overrode all of the horror and the terror that was also happening to me at the same time. So by the time I got back here, man, my brain, I was when I went to Afghanistan, man, I was 215 pounds. When I landed, I was 167 pounds.
Wow.
And it was, you get so disoriented when you get there that you end up going with the orientation of the environment and not realizing that there's other orientations. And so when I came, I had got so organized around that orientation. By the time I got back here and I'm walking around here, this felt foreign to me.
Yeah.
And that's what got me into kind of thinking about, okay, what must my grandmother have been going through when she was picking cotton, and she used to always complain that her hands were hurt. That's how all of that came together, because I was like, oh, the brutality that I have some embodied experience of, oh, that's what grandma was talking about. Oh, shoot. Right.
Resmaa,
So, yeah.
Well, I think we came to the abrupt end of that tape. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but wow, what a wonderful and powerful interview. My thanks to Brother Resmaa Menakem for being who he is, for writing the book, and my thanks to you. Oh, there we go. Here it is. I love you, and I love your work. I love what you stand for. And kudos to your grandmother, your mom and dad, and your family, and to your children, sisters and brothers, all those around you, those whose lives you touch, to the ancestors that created the pathway, and to those that are yet to be born. I would say the beautiful ones are yet to be born. They're coming, and we know that they are. Listen, last words. Give your website again so people can go get the book and
Absolutely.
follow you.
Resmaa.com, RESMAA.com. And just appreciate any support, y'all. Thank you.
Brother Resmaa, we'll see you. Take care, man.
Love you, brother. Talk to you soon.
All right. I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. We'll see you again tomorrow, not here on the radio, but at the Insight News Facebook page. We do this 5 days a week. We're glad to do it. And thank you for being part of it. Help us grow this platform by liking and sharing and telling everybody in the world something's going on over here at 1 o'clock every day. I'm Al McFarlane. Well, again, there it is. Let's see. And let me cut out that stream. But it was a wonderful, wonderful interview. Hold on. I see. I'm managing the technology myself directly, so it's interesting. There we go. I was getting the show, follow-up show, Lady J. But listen, I just want to thank you for checking us out, being part of this conversation, this experience. Hi, Denise Mazzone. Thank you for checking it out. And thank you for the work you do in community. And Michelle Madison. Michelle, thank you for being here almost every day. I appreciate that you're present and that you bring ideas and suggestions. I'm asking everybody to help us grow this platform, share it with your friends, share it with neighbors, and how do we create the space where we can have what I call these robust conversations. I enjoy it. Here's the proposition. We have a chance to share. My job is the facilitator. I'm the journalist. I'm the reporter. I call myself the witness. I'm a scribe. And my goal is to listen intently, carefully to, what's the right word for it? There's a phrase I've heard, it'll come to me in a minute, but a certain kind of listening that supports and allows and encourages you, my guest, to be your best self and to say your best information, to share your best knowledge. I've said this before. I used to tell guests when I had a 10-minute program on KQRS. This is years ago, but since it was a 10-minute show, I would tell my guests in advance, act like this is the last 10 minutes of your life. And in this 10 minutes, you have to create a summation and say the most important things that must be said. Well, that's the spirit that I bring today in this work, and I ask my guests to take it to that level. Make sure that you have said, that you are saying what must be said. And we owe this to ourselves, and we owe it to posterity. We're building a new world, and we are taking responsibility for co-authoring that world with our brothers and sisters, our people all over the planet. And guess what? Our people are all the people on the planet. We come from where we come from, but we are all connected. We want to demonstrate that. So join the conversation. Brother Louis Alamayu, thank you so much for being who you are and all the great work you do as a creator and as a promoter of the notion of ancestor energy. That's what it's called. That's what you've done, among many other things. But thank you all. And every day, 1 o'clock, tell somebody. If you want to be on the program, if I can talk to you, my job is just to listen and to create the space for you to share your truth. So call me, hit me up. There's my email address, Al Insight News. I am pledging that I am interested in you and your voice, and I want to demonstrate that. Join me. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.